All right. So let's talk about Office 365 and Azure AD Sync. So, yeah, really? Come on. Service health? No, it's the AAD Connect status. That's what I want. Cool. This is probably okay. All right, cool. So we have a lot of clients who have AD Sync set up, and we have a lot of, and we're going to continue to have more clients like that. It's certainly our preferred way of handling Office 365 and an on-prem AD solution, right? The idea is that AD Sync synchronizes your on-prem Active Directory account with your Office 365 account, right? What that really means in a technical sense is that you have a separate Active Directory account and you have a separate Office 365 account, and they are bridged together, but they are still technically separate accounts. All right, which is why we have a problem when we change the password in Office 365 with the expectation that it'll change in Active Directory. It will not, right? Depending on some stuff. But generally speaking, it will not. So what that really means is please don't ever change the password in here because the synchronization is not set up in both directions.
Wait, hold on, backtrack. Hold on. Which direction are we now going?
Do not change the password in Office 365 because it doesn't go in the other direction.
If the company is AD synced.
Yeah, if a company is AD synced, right? How do we know if a company is AD synced? You may be wondering to yourself. Well, there's this guy here. It says that AAD, that's Azure AD, right? Azure AD Connect status. If it's green, yay, we have Azure AD and it's AD synced. So please don't change the passwords in here. But what if I'm on a server and I'm lazy and I don't want to have to open portal.office.com because I don't have 15 minutes to spend waiting? All of the domain controllers that are the AD Sync endpoint in AD will have this synchronization service icon on the desktop. All right. So that's how you know if you're on the server if this client has AD Sync. All right. And we, the sysadmins, should be leaving that on the desktop for you guys to get to. So you also know pretty quickly whether or not they have AD Sync. I think at this point, all of our clients that use Office 365 are AD synced, except for some of our Teltech folks. And there's one more person. Oh, and MCIA.
Also Midas.
Also Midas.
Yeah.
Really? It's
documented that they are, but they're not.
We should probably do that at some point. Anyways, so that's what's going on here. All right, so let's dig into things a little bit here. If we go into our active users, we'll see, and this is another way that you know that this is AD synced. there's another column over there called sync type. If it's not AD synced, that sync type won't be there. You won't have it at all, right? But that sync type is there to let you know what kind of accounts these user accounts are, right? So obviously, if it's in cloud, that means that it's just an Office 365 account. There's no associated Active Directory account synced with it. Whereas synced with Active Directory, obviously, synced with Active Directory.
And in the in-cloud case, you can reset the password. You can only reset the password in the portal.
Correct. So that's how that goes. The email address here, the username, is something that you cannot change in here because it uses the local Active Directory details and properties to set the username and the email address that's on it, right? So if you ever wind up with a user who has an email address that's like, them at on Microsoft.com, right? Can't change it in here. You have to go into AD, change it in there, and then sync it with the Azure Directory tool. Okay, so let's talk about it from the server side then, right? So on the server, sometimes if we've been sloppy, the sysadmins will have left this Azure AD Connect icon sitting on the desktop. Don't use that. Don't ever use that. That is there to do configuration inside of Azure AD Sync. And when you open it, it pauses the sync, right? Which means that if you open it, you don't know what you're doing, and then you just leave it there, then for the duration of the time that that window is open, there's no AD Sync happening, right? So in general, we, the sysadmins, should be removing it from the desktop, and in general, you guys should just not ever touch it because there's not really any good reason to go in there, right? In here, this is where we would configure the on-prem AD account that has admin rights, the Azure account that has global admin rights, the specific OUs that user accounts should be synced out of, so we can be more granular and not just sync all 600 user accounts, 500 of which are disabled, right? So we can do that too. That's where you would configure that. And then there's a couple of other options that we can configure. One of the things that's in there that we're still testing and we're not sure how good it is yet is an option called password writeback. And what that means is that in that case, the sync is actually in both directions, and that if we change passwords in Office 365, it should change the password in AD. But like I said, I don't know how good that is yet. We're still kind of testing it. I think I set it up at MCIA, and so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, and the concern there is that the sync takes 15 minutes to run. Or sorry, the sync happens every 15 minutes automatically, which means that if you change the password in Office 365, their Active Directory account, it has the old password for 15 minutes, which can cause all kinds of problems. Generally speaking, it's okay if there's a time lag between when you change your on-prem AD password and the Office 365 account, because there's not a whole lot that's depending on that except for your ability to get into the email account. But in the other direction, it could be kind of bad. So we're still testing that. So in light of that, I'm just going to delete that. So the Synchronization Service Manager here, right? This is what governs the steps and commands that are being taken by the Azure AD Sync tool to sync across to Office 365. And in the past, we've told you guys that when you guys make a new account, you need to run these commands, right? You can see here if I blow it up, let's see if I can blow it up reasonably. Oh God!
Wow. Too much blow.
Too much blow. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So if you look in here, oh God. Okay. Cool. If you look in here really carefully, you can see that there's a cutoff point between the commands that it ran the first time around and then the next round of commands, right? So what this tells us is that the first thing, and it goes in bottom up order, the first thing that the synchronization service does is it does a delta import of the data that's in phe.local, that's the local Active Directory, and Premier Health Express, that's Office 365, right? So it gathers the data from those two sources and looks at what's different, what has changed since the last time it ran its delta import, right? Then it does a delta sync where it synchronizes between the two, and then it does an export to export out to Office 365 all the changes, right? So in the past, what we've told you is come in here, right-click on it, click on Run, wait for it to happen, move on to the next one, right-click on it, click Run, and then move your way up until you get to the last one in the cycle, and then your AD synced. Great. You can move on and you can tell the user to log into their email. Since then, I have figured out and found out that there is a PowerShell command that runs really nicely and really simply. If I can open it.
PowerShell Joe.
Yeah, that's me. There's a PowerShell script and a PowerShell command that just kicks off a delta sync. Let's see if it opens. Let me see if it opens. Maybe I'm asking too much of it. Whoa, hello. That's way bigger than I wanted it to be. Please be smaller.
Scroll up on the board.
Can I just be smaller? Cool, yeah. So, and it's just this little command here: start dash AD sync cycle dash policy type delta. All right. So that command tells the sync service, do your thing, and it'll just automatically run all of it in the correct order. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And to make things even simpler, if you just double click on this Azure AD Delta Sync button, it'll run that PowerShell command. It'll run that PowerShell command, and then, because I'm not very good at PowerShell scripts, it will wait a little while, and then tell you success, and then press enter to continue. All right. Here's the caveat. When it says success, what it means is that it has successfully told the AD Sync client to do its thing. That does not mean that it has finished. But what it does mean is that it'll run through it pretty quickly, so chances are there's just the one change that you just made, so it should happen pretty quickly. If you count to like 60, it'll probably be done, right? So a lot faster and a lot simpler, and then hit enter to continue. All right. So going forward, that'll be the way that we want you guys to do the Delta syncs. It just makes things easier and makes it harder to screw anything up. So at this point, I kind of showed you what's going on the server side and showed you what's going on the Office 365 side, but I haven't really showed you guys how they connect to each other. And for that, I'm going to attempt to show you guys. Yeah, God. Okay. Some PowerShell stuff. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't. On second thought, maybe I shouldn't, because I realized that this is one of those things that I was gonna try and prepare for you guys so I could show you, but I don't have it right now, and I would have to go and Google a bunch of stuff to do it. So remember how I told you guys that the Office 365 accounts and the Active Directory accounts are two separate accounts, right? But there has to be some way for Azure AD Sync to associate the two, right? And when it comes to how the systems are looking at each of the user objects are not listed by username, right? Or by first name, last name, in a way that Active Directory understands, right? That stuff there is for us weak flesh bags to use to figure out what we're working with. What the computer cares about is the GUID, the GUID. And I think they call them GUIDs in Office 365 too. And that's just that string of like numbers and dashes that identifies what your user account is, right? And that user account that string in AD is going to be different from the one in Office 365, right? So what happens is that when you install Active Directory Azure Sync, it creates for all of your user accounts something called an immutable ID. That immutable ID is yet another ridiculously long string of numbers and letters, right? Which it then uses to synchronize the two user accounts, right? So Azure AD Sync says, great, this user account, S-1- blah, 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 has a mutable ID, blah, right? And then it will synchronize and send that data into Office 365, and it will create that synced account in Office 365, right? With a completely different completely different GUID, but with the same immutable ID. Okay, and in that way, it associates the two user accounts together. Okay, so what that means is that we don't have a simple way to create an Office 365 account, then do Azure AD Sync, right, and have the two user accounts sync up, because you have to rely on Azure AD Sync to send that user account information to Office 365 with the immutable ID attached to it. So again, us human flesh bags might have a username that is the same as the one in AD, and we'll wonder what the heck, it's got the same everything, why isn't this working? But it needs to have the same immutable ID, right? And what that means is actually, though, that if we desperately need to do so, and we had to do this twice now, if a user account is created in Office 365, and then we have to sync the two, what we actually have to do is we have to turn off AD Sync, which converts all of the synced Office 365 accounts into synced AD accounts into cloud Office 365 accounts, right? And in that way, it retains the email mailboxes and stuff like that, which is what we care about, right? We don't want to lose that, right? Then in Active Directory, we can query Active Directory and say, give me the immutable IDs for immutable ID associations for all of the AD user accounts, right? Then we have to go into Office 365 and then say, great, give me all of your GUIDs. Okay, cool. Now let me tell you what all of the immutable IDs are that are associated to these GUIDs. Great. Now we can turn Active Directory Sync back on. And as long as those user accounts in Office 365 have an immutable ID that it can sync up with the immutable ID in AD, then it syncs up and you don't lose any data, which is what we desperately want. So all of this is a really, really, really long way of saying don't create users in Office 365 if they're AD synced, because it can be really, really big, a really big problem, and you risk losing data because it's really easy to screw all that up.
Always create users in AD 100% of the time.
Correct. Always create them in AD.
The only caveat to that is if they're a partner or a contractor that just needs email in the cloud. I don't know if we've decided on that.
I would still argue that they should get Active Directory accounts. We should
maybe have another OU for contractor users that we can sync up.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that later.
Sorry,
there's like an option to reset your password remotely.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that I would want to make sure that the same password requirements are being enforced, right? So that's because that's one of the things we really like about AAD. You can enforce password requirements, right? And you can say you have to change your password every 3 days, or else, right? So we should probably retain that same sort of thing, but at the same time, we probably don't want contractors to just have domain user rights and just be able to log into computers and stuff like that. So we should talk about that and figure out a better way to do that. No, that's good. I like the idea. So that's the basics and maybe a little bit of intermediate stuff on AD Sync. Does that kind of make sense? All right, does anybody have any questions?
All the portal stuff that you're showing is from Office 365. It's not from the Partner Center. Is there
Yes.
The Partner Center side doesn't show the AD Sync?
Correct.
You have to.
Correct. I personally find that the Partner Center is pretty useless, except when it comes to purchasing the subscriptions.
Right, but you still have to use it.
Well, so part of what we've been working on is getting documented every global admin 365 user for each customer, so that day-to-day stuff, I find it easier and much better performance to log in as that
That was
admin.
actually going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Are we going to be using domain admins instead of personal?
Not domain admins, but global admins, yes. So domain admins, you're talking about the Active Directory accounts, and probably not that.
Okay.
But every Office 365 instance should have a in-cloud global administrator that we can use to log in, and that I think that's
Are
fine.
we setting that uniformly, peak at domain?
It's usually
It's
peak
mostly-
admin at.
Peak admin at, yeah.
There shouldn't be any base admins I know of. It's all peak admin at, and it'll be documented in LastPass
Yeah.
with a link. They're all site links, so it should say actually Microsoft's logo is on it if you look in LastPass.
Yeah.
But we have it for at least 15 and working on more because it's just faster and easier most
It
of
is.
the time.
Once we
It
talk about
is.
this, there's one, 3.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more. I've definitely added a lot
I think
because of
we
that
got sick and tired of having to use the thing for partner portal. The partner portal really is only useful for purchasing additional licenses. It's not even good for looking at the number of licenses or which users
It doesn't
have what
tell you
licenses.
everything.
Because you still have to drill down into each user to find out what licenses are associated with them. Whereas in here, you just go to active users and it's in there. So I personally think this is a way easier way to go about it, and I would encourage you guys to keep doing that. Although, if y'all really desired to do so, you can connect to the Microsoft Online. Oh, come on, I did though. All right, well, you can.
We need to. I think, Joe, don't we have this up somewhere where it's like a 4-step process to connect to 365?
Yeah. It's in the general knowledge base.
Which, if you guys don't use that, it's helpful for some stuff.
Okay,
It's really
cool.
easy to run.
But if you install the MS Online commandlets module, then you can actually log into.
You're talking like on our computers, right?
Mhm.
Microfat.
Oh, come on.
Microfat.
Cool. And then you can do get-msol user, and you can see like all the user accounts that are associated with them and stuff like that. So there is some PowerShelling that you can do if you are interested in learning it. I think over here. Oh yeah, and you can see it's squished because I have the page squished. It says is licensed and then false and true. So you can pretty quickly go through there and see. I think there's even you can even query the certain parameters in that get-msol user commandlet to tell you what type of Office 365 license is associated with them too. So the PowerShell commandlets are really powerful, and personally, I've found that it's even faster and easier for myself to do it. But and it's more accurate. That's the other thing, because the admin portal sometimes will tell you that it's not true, but it is true. So it's also just poop. Let me also bring up this. So you'll notice here that there is an account called sync -PHE-DC1- add Premier Health Express on-premises directory synchronization service account. This is the service account that Azure AD uses on-prem to pull data out. All right. So if you ever see this in the Office 365 admin portal, don't delete it. That would be really bad.
It tells you the server that it's installed on, the sync service is installed on.
Yeah, dude, that's cool. I never actually put 2 and 2 together on that one.
It's one of the ways.
That's an account that's created when you set this up.
Yeah, when you first do the Azure AD Sync installation, it creates that user account as a service account. Cool. All right. Last thing I wanted to show you guys. Last thing I wanted to show you guys is this. So if you are ever concerned about whether or not Active Directory whether or not Azure AD Sync is actually syncing, there's a way to find it in the Office 365 admin portal. I kind of forget where it is. There's sync errors? Okay.
Here.
No, that's not it. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for...
I think it's the wrench. Or the
Wrench.
No.
No.
What are you trying to find?
Where's the thing that tells you whether or not...
There
Directory
it is.
sync status. Aha!
The heartbeat.
Okay. So, some of you guys may or may not have seen this before. That's not useful. All right. But this is the admin portal's thing that tells you whether or not directory sync services are working. And you can come in here and you can look and say oh, hey, it's last synced 6 minutes ago, right? But I can also tell you that that's said 6 minutes ago since we first started talking. So this page here, I cannot underscore and highlight this enough, is horrendously inaccurate. All right, it's like just so beyond useless. So instead, I would suggest coming in here, going to Windows Mint PowerShell, and then where the heck did I stick it? Office 365 seems reasonable, right? Put this. I think it was in here. Microsoft Online Office 365 PowerShell commandlets. Wait for Confluence to do its thing. Confluence do its thing. Please. Okay, cool. All right, so in here I've got a couple more commandlets that you can run. So the first one here is this. And if we run that, it will tell us. Come on. Pretty please. Pretty please. No. Not feeling it. All right, come on. P. Did you actually copy? I don't know. Paste. Yeah, cool. If you hit that, it'll tell you that it is currently enabled. It's good. Again, this is way more accurate than that page. I have turned off directory sync before, and then turned it back on, and then had that page say, "Nope, nothing's working," and this tell me it's true, and this is always correct. So it just takes a really long time for that page to like catch up to what's actually happening. And then the other one here, the other really useful and cool one, is how to get the actual last time that it was synced. So it'll tell you the last time we synced it was at 4:39, which but it does it in UTC, yeah. So 12:39 is the last time that we synced it. So
Largely inaccurate. I'm just kidding.
yeah. So really nice PowerShell commandlets that are way more accurate than what's in the admin portal. So if for whatever reason you desperately need to know when the last time it synced was, there you go. All right. Any questions?
Did you go over configuring AD accounts with the right SMTP addresses and stuff?
No, I didn't.
That's probably the number one attribute we have to set.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that it's necessary for AD Sync. I think it's necessary for Cloud Console, but I don't know if it's necessary for this. Anyways, I'll go over it.
For UPN and
yeah, so what Azure AD Sync uses to pull user accounts, user login information, for email addresses, is the user principal name, which if you come in here and you look, here's your user principal name. A little bigger. Okay, cool. So there's your user principal name, and this is what it uses. No, it's not. That's a lie. Come on. Or alternatively, that person's stuff is not working. Which I guess is possible. Oh, yeah, maybe that person just is not working. I'll fix that later. So the user logon name is what it pulls from, and the user principal name, which is what pulls from this. This is what will tell Office 365 what the user account is, right? So that's really useful to know. And then while you're at it, and maybe this will be something for that other project that I'm working on, personal project that I'm working on. While you're at it, it's probably a good idea to set the proxy address as well, because Cloud Console really cares about it. I don't think that AD Sync does.
It's how you set aliases.
It is, but it doesn't care about it if you don't have if you only have one domain, right?
Ross actually showed me the other day there's actually a much easier way to do it now in the new Partner Center.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, proxy addresses, forget it.
Excellent.
In users and licenses, you have that open.
Oh.
Yeah, go to users and licenses.
Where's users and licenses?
To the right.
To the right, down,
Oh, God.
left.
Left.
You gotta use two pieces of wood.
Second column from the left. There we go.
Yeah. Once it loads, just pick a random person. Yeah. Actually, use Purdue because that's what we chose.
Ah.
You can actually set it right there. Yeah.
All right. Cool. kick ass.
Yeah, Ross taught me that one the other day.
Partner center's having a problem. Oh,
That's not new.
Okay, but that's just their primary address.
Master of Ross.
Yeah, and you can set secondary addresses with the proxy addresses. Yes.
Right.
But if you don't have anything else, you don't need it. So sorry, let me backtrack. You don't need proxy addresses for anything except what proxy addresses are used for.
So I think
Thanks.
that.
Very helpful.
So I think the key thing is that before you ever set up AD Sync, you have to go in and change the UPN of the users. Otherwise, they'll get created with a username of whatever .local or something else if it's a different domain.
I think it actually, if it's a .local account, it defaults to .microsoft.com,
Yeah.
Which is also bad.
which is also bad. Yeah.
So how would you do that? Because the in that window, the AD that long list of stuff you were just looking at. Yeah. Aren't the attributes in there only like hex and hexadecimal? And
Oh,
I was looking at stuff the other day.
Some are, but no, not the ones that we care about.
Okay.
I don't believe in using non-flesh bag
That's
stuff.
what I was gonna say. Like, how would you do that?
Yeah.
It's pretty human.
Yeah.
You probably
Also,
you should probably engage as tier 2 or sysadmin if you're setting it up, because if it's not already there, you have to go and add a domain to the Active Directory domain across their environment to be able to even have the option to change the UPN. Right. So it's a little bit of a part's a little bit.
I don't expect any of you guys to have to set up Azure AD Sync. Yeah. I think that would be outside the scope for you guys. But I just want you guys to be aware of it.
Yeah.
If the synchronization service application is not on the desktop, how would one go about finding it?
That is a good question.
Actually, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, except for that doesn't always work.
The one time I tried it.
Okay, well, that's really helpful, except for when it doesn't.
Right.
So in the portal, you can see on that service account what server it's installed on. Yeah.
So that's how you would get to it otherwise.
So just for my sanity, you want to try and find it on Adama?
Sure. This is where Nick stumps me, and I sit here looking real stupid,
Just
real
that's
dumb,
tough questions.
looking real dumb.
Or it should be, I think.
I should know this.
You should.
Is this like one of those times where Joe logs into a telecross thing and everything goes to shit?
Nope. No, this is not anything like that. This is 0% like that.
Can't wait to hear this video.
Storage crash.
So, damn it, Jay. Nothing like that, huh?
The freaking.
Yeah, you're actually not supposed to have this yet.
Mm.
None of you are.
Hold on. I gotta go.
Really
important diagram real
I'll give it to you later.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mine's on my desk, so you should
Well,
probably.
it shouldn't be.
I see it kind
Yes.
of.
You see it?
You do?
Left,
I'll tell you later.
down to the right, middle column, middle of the middle column, middle of the middle, right there.
Microsoft
That?
Azure Services?
That
It's
is
the only thing
not
I see.
it. No, that's not it.
I'm just saying.
You're wrong. This is interesting.
Yo.
So then, what's the next step? So we would go into the portal with the synchronization account and see what server it has.
Why? Why what? I'm winning.
Yeah, I know.
That's how many times the wrecking has occurred. He has been wrecked once.
Oh, okay.
It might even be a reckoning.
Are you certain that it's on Adama?
One number equals one wreck.
I'm not certain,
I owe
but I
you one.
checked both Adama and
Yeah,
Rossi.
let me know just if I.
No, I owe you one. When I get up,
What did you do? I made one.
Jesus Christ.
can I do it? I caught it.
He did caught it. He did catch
I
it.
catch
I'm
it.
not uploading. We can't upload this video.
Sure we can. We just have to cut off the last one.
He hides his face a lot. Shoot him somewhere.
Cut off the
behind.
last several minutes of this legendary video.
Me floundering about trying to find.
Jack Roslin.
Yeah. There's the one from earlier.
He's waiting
Yep. Nope. He stepped on my toe. I stepped on my toe. Ah. No, touch your
I don't think it's on here.
Yeah, wash your hands.
Can you look in the portal?
I don't think
I
so.
am. Can you look in the portal? This is a test.
No, it fucking doesn't. I was searching for such a long time the other day that it did its automatic sync during the time that I was looking. And I was like, ta-da! Your password is synced.
Just like magic.
What did you do? Oh, you know, just some
Black magic.
very hard work.
Just some shit.
Just waited around.
Is it the? Is it the?
Take the whole
No,
point of
wait.
What about the fireman?
My friend.
Try again.
Wait for it!
There's a lot of accounts.
Now, fireman. That's not fun. That's not good.
Probably Kelly something, right?
Should be under S, right?
Freaking-
For sync dash.
That does.
Rosalind.
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 Okay.
There we go.
Then find it on Rosalind.
You want me to jump through a hoop next?
I think.
I mean, yeah, I kind of want to see that.
Like, I'm perfectly happy to accept.
So how'd you just do that? Was that Control Shift?
Control Alt Home.
Oh.
Home.
Really?
Home.
That's gonna change my life.
Yeah. If you guys, oh, there it is.
What a fun.
There we go. Yep.
That was a shorthanded.
So Nick got wrecked.
Nice and easy right there.
How did you get wrecked? What happened?
All right, throw mark off.
Any other
Okay,
questions?
can you toss that on the desktop while you're there?
No.
Why?
Because I'll do it later. My hand
another one.
hurts. Yeah, my hand has been stuck like this for
you
about
said
a
my
half
hand
hour
hurts.
now. Yes, my hand
Sorry,
hurts.
man.
Because my hand has been at a very awkward angle. Because I have decided
Chris gave it to me.
It's okay.
to sacrifice on your behalf. Anyways, any other questions about AD Sync?
No.
No? Cool. All right. That means that we should no longer have to deal with the fact that y'all accidentally changed passwords on Office 365, right? Right?
You.
Right?
You.
And there's no more. And we should no longer have problems where people create user accounts in Office 365,
That's Joe
right?
got wrecked.
Right? All right. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You know, we're just totally wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize that
So
these were going
what
to
we've
come by
learned here is
today.
that we need to keep creating Office 365 accounts in Office
And
365.
Chris Knott said he wanted me to say something.